It was an incomplete pass in a game that they... Hold on a second. I'm going to do that again. Hey, yeah, I know you are. Okay, I'm going to come up after we're done talking about the football game, okay?
Thanks, Malia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Back Ups.
So,
Hey,
we're back up.
back up.
Week, I don't know what week it is. Episode 6?
5, 6.
5? I think it's time to stop counting.
6 with Brian's episode, yeah.
Do we just stop counting at this point?
Stop counting. Just
And
put
we
them out there.
just start rolling.
People keep
episodes?
watching.
Keep joining us. We're the Back Ups. I'm Timbo B. Davis, and I coach football.
And I'm Connor B. Feckley, and I coach football.
And that's convenient because this is a football podcast. So last week we had a great show. We talked about the lessons from the Super Bowl. Today we're going to talk a little Super Bowl. We had Brian Mercereau.
Yep.
We had a really great interview.
Coach
If you haven't
Merce.
checked that out, check out Coach Merce's interview. That was a really special deal. So some fun things going on. We have some more interviews coming up in the upcoming weeks.
Yep.
And we're excited to highlight all sorts of things football.
Yeah, I was saying we got some exciting people coming on, and it's gonna have a lot of different perspectives to come on the show, and looking forward to it.
And so, hey, if you're out there, we got a cat. We got a cat on set. Family's. This is, by the way, this family's home tonight. Believe it or not, we're not in $1 million studio.
Some people have thought that.
We've had some good comments about the studio,
$1
which
million
was kind of cool, but it's the basement.
It's a basement. A couple
It's-
things hung up. Some good cameras, and
It's Wayne's World.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's Wayne's World. Anyway, so where was I going with this?
Viewers coming in, just
Viewers,
coming up. Brian's coming on.
okay.
There you go.
Anyway, so hey, viewers, something we want is a little bit more interactivity from you guys. So if you know of somebody who would be really great to have on the cast, somebody to get in on, again, it's not just about football, although that's what centers the whole story. It's about life. So if you have somebody that you have an idea, put it in the comments below, shoot us an email, and we'll go from there.
Let us know, man. Love to have more people on, the better.
Do you know what our email address is?
Davis_Tim at asdk12.org.
Because I don't know what our email address is, but we can edit it in right here and
Nice, that'd be cool.
And in the show notes, should you be on Apple Podcasts. So it's the openers. What's the best thing you saw this week?
Well, there was a lot of good things this week.
A lot of good things.
There's a lot of
Super
good
Bowl
things
week.
this week. But I think one that trumps them all, and rightfully so, was best thing was Alex Smith winning the Comeback Player of the Year. Like I said, I think they should rename the award in his honor. I don't think there's ever going to be another story like him, and if there is, then more power to whoever's next. But what he was able to come back from, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the video and the documentary they did, and man, didn't have a leg, and then to come back and to be able to
His
compete,
quad hamstring.
He's got part of his butt attached to his calf and everything. So enough said. I mean, the guy, rightfully so, won it. I'm glad they didn't mess it up like they messed up Defensive Player of the Year. Nothing against Aaron Donald, but TJ Watt deserved it.
Yeah.
Just had to put that out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that. I think we're gonna be talking later in the show about the book Grit. When you think Alex Smith, you got to think of some of the highest level of grit, persistence over time that we've ever seen.
You could almost add his name into the definition of it too. I mean,
absolutely. I think what we saw there again. That's a story for someone else to tell.
Yes.
Check it out. It is.
If you haven't,
oh my gosh,
go check it
that's
out.
our first recommendation. We'll have a bunch of recommendations of stuff you should go to. We have homework for you today.
A little bit of homework, yeah.
Which kind of leads us into the theme of the day, which is education, which also links me back to my openers, the best thing I saw this week. I've been working in a tutoring session.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, but we had another tutor come in, Ms. Burtz, and she absolutely has, we have a couple football players there.
Yeah.
There's two good things that I saw. First of all, the football players that are in there are getting work done. They're working really, really hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got to help you out there last week, and it was awesome. They were in there cranking stuff out, man. It was good.
And that's refreshing to see kids that are dedicated to their studies. And so we're really, really blessed to be where we're at as far as working with the teaching staff as well as the kids. But we also have started to open up the weight room a little bit, so things are opening up. Limited, slowly but surely.
We're getting there.
Small groups. It's not like it has been. I know other parts of the nation and state are just fully open, and some are fully closed. So we're in this spot where we are. Hey, speaking of education, we're learning as we go along.
Always.
With this COVID thing, but we feel a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Keep masking up when you're out there. Make sure you know who your bubble is. You know, we're in each other's bubbles. You know, and it just is what it is. And but when you're out there, mask up, guys. Mask up. Be safe.
Be safe.
And let's get everything open when we can,
get going,
as
so
safely as we can.
Absolutely, man. Let's get back to how things
so
work.
I'm excited to get back up.
up.
Yeah. So, which leads us into the get back up. So who is your get back up this week?
Oh, my get back up this week. I know going into it, some of the pregame stuff before the Super Bowl, they showed a lot of cool stuff going on. But I think the coolest thing and the most get back up moment was for the Chiefs' former starting right guard, Laurent Duvernay Tarif something. I probably brutally butchered that. My bad, man. But Doctor decided to opt out this season and then spend the entire season helping in the hospitals in Canada fighting COVID. So really, really awesome interview with him. Just basically, explaining how, hey man, he had, his calling was to be a doctor, and unfortunately he was able to also be in the body of an NFL starting lineman. Yeah. But ultimately chose to give up, a chance at another Super Bowl and to go back and, and help make a difference and help save lives. And I know a lot of those Chiefs players gave him a lot of love and were wanting to really kind of pull that one off for him. But he'll be back. He's he's doing what's right in the world, helping people, saving lives, and he'll be back in the NFL, helping the Chiefs win here too in the future.
Well, it's fun. It's what we do in football. I think that's the important part. Is again, I say this almost every episode. Football is a non-transferable skill, but the lessons that are in football transfer to everything you do in life. And here's an O lineman. We've talked tons about O lineman accountability and sacrifice. Money where your mouth is, man.
Yeah.
And here's a guy opting out, if you will, to opt in to help society, to help the world. That was really cool. Mine's way less noble, but still pretty cool. Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. Rightfully so.
We'll talk about the Super Bowl here in a minute, but what we saw from Patrick Mahomes, we saw leadership, we saw poise. He could have grit. How many times do you see quarterbacks or athletes, let's just say athletes, who ball out and start pointing fingers at guys, start yelling at their dudes? He had every reason to be upset about anything. Play calling, O-line play, receivers dropping passes.
Flags.
Flags.
Tons of stuff. Yeah.
There's so many chances for him to BCD, specifically complain.
Totally.
And he got back up. And he made maybe the greatest throw I've ever seen.
I think it was.
I don't think I've ever seen.
I texted you right away, and I was like, that is probably the best throw I've ever seen. I think everyone knows what we're talking about already.
And in fact, we'll take that right into the Super Bowl lessons. But here's, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the shot. He's totally parallel to the ground. And he throws a dime.
And it's funny because it's sort of similar to what you were trying to show with like the Derek Jeter thing, but it's like almost at like a more ridiculous angle.
I didn't even make that connection. That's a great connection.
And that's kind of one of the first things I thought about was, man, this might be like you can probably get a little more teaching out of Derek Jeter's throw. I mean, coaches should not be out trying to practice this throw and practice this drill, having their quarterbacks lay out throws.
So many kids did though.
Some kids were probably going to be thinking of the next, they'd be diving around saying they're Mahomes.
It's snowy out there. I went outside and just jumped in my yard and tried to.
It would be a good time to practice your Mahomes throw, but just pure amazing.
Kind of along the same lines as the get back up, but we talk a lot about controlling what you can control. This was an incomplete pass.
Yeah.
And I think that you can do something so great and you can be such an outlier of greatness. It doesn't mean that you get the results that you quote deserve.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I like the term deserve much anymore in life.
It ain't fair or however.
It's just, life is just that. And so Mahomes is going to take these lessons. He's going to learn. They're going to be better. The Chiefs coaching staff and O-line and the team, the receiving play.
Oh, 100%.
They're going to be better.
Yeah.
They're probably out better today.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of the post-game, even in the interviews post-game, a lot of the Chiefs players were, they were, hey, we learned a lot today.
Yeah.
The Bucs deserve that. They beat us. We are going to take everything from this game, and we'll be back next year, and they will. So
let's talk about the game. One of the aspects of it I think we saw was the pressure on Mahomes. It was unbelievable, and I picked the Chiefs. I really thought that they would protect that O-line better.
Yeah, and then you're absolutely right. And I think if, what was it, like out of 56 dropbacks, like 40 something of them were just 5-man protection.
Yeah,
and with how well that Bucs D line was playing, I think looking back on it, they wouldn't agree with it either.
Yeah.
Put a little bit of it, the whole second half just looked like a backyard football game or something you'd see at recess with a bunch of kids running around. But like, Mahomes had almost 500 yards of just scrambling before he threw the football.
Yeah.
So kind of chaotic, kind of putting all your eggs in one basket on a guy to make a play. And then what your guy comes back to is, and Mahomes did make the play. A lot of the times he did make the play. So maybe if they had a couple more catches, maybe this game's closer, and the Chiefs staff is sitting there like, hey, man, we did exactly what we thought.
Yeah.
And so the crazy thing is that despite looking at all the numbers and thinking, why the heck would they do that? I mean, Mahomes did make some of the plays, and so it is pretty crazy to think about. But overall, Bucs deserved it. Hats off to them.
They did. We talked about the O-line play, and I actually we talked about the horizontal move. There was none of that.
Ooh, yeah.
You didn't see much of the RPO game. You saw a lot of quick passes, which were medium success when they were caught. There was a few drives there at the beginning of the second half. They hit Kelsey a few times in a row.
Tried to get him rolling, but he was slipping and sliding.
Yeah,
they were just off, man. It was kind of a letdown in the sense of
it was
what you would want to see out of the Chiefs, and what we all expected to see. I know everyone had that high 30s or low 30s close game, and just kind of.
The elephant in the room, if you will, is the situation with Andy Reid's son.
Yeah.
And the accident that happened, critically injured, a couple kids, and so you gotta wonder again. The offense coordinator is Bien. I mean, he's the one calling the plays, but you gotta wonder if the preparation of the team was distracted by that. The barber had COVID.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like I said,
it didn't look right.
Those guys all have so much love for Andy Reid.
They do.
And you can see that. I mean, it's evident every week how much they love and respect him. And I think, they know that something he had to be hurting. That entire situation had to have been hard. It'd be hard at any time, but obviously 2 days before the Super Bowl doesn't make anything any easier. So I think that all came in and it just kind of shows that, how close that team is. And when one guy's down, they all feel it.
But of course, we got to give our hats off to Tom Brady.
TB12, man. I'm a former Buccaneer. My Pop Warner. I had my Pop Warner jersey on all day, number 73, which I got really stoked about because that was the number the lineman was wearing that almost caught the touchdown pass that got knocked down. So I was about to be repping my big 73. I can't even remember who it was, but good for the Bucs, man. They came out and kicked butt, and as a former Buccaneer, I was pretty proud.
Yeah, fair enough. Former Buccaneer. I love it. Well, we got a heavy day on teaching. We're going to be talking a lot about teaching today. Yeah. It's education. I wanted to kind of point to some of the resources and thoughts that we've come across so that whatever you are, whether you're a player or a coach, whether you're just someone listening to us, there is something here. It is not exclusive to football. It's not really even exclusive to educational field. Yeah. It's something that we all can get. And so what we're going to start off with is a quick talk. If you get a chance, check out Urban Meyer. He does a clinic talk for the Ohio State Coaches Association.
2012
I believe.
Beginning.
And there's a bunch of stuff he says.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that's applicable across the board is the difference between a presenter and a teacher.
Absolutely. And like I said, for those of you that may have already seen the video or heard the talk, I mean, he goes into detail about the difference between a presenter and a teacher. He explains that presenters present information and then they fail those that don't understand it. Which is like, obviously all of us can probably think back to a teacher that we had, in school that just wrote everything down on the board, never moved. As soon as he was done or, the time limit was up, it was on to the next.
Bueller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That type of thing. And the difference between a teacher, they'll exhaust all resources to ensure that the kid understands what's going on. Yeah. And obviously that can sound like a lot more work, and that's because it is, and he makes that very evident on how important that is, though, not only for the kid's sake, but for your sake as an educator as well.
I think it comes down to, we've talked about extreme ownership and Jocko and all that, but I think it comes down to me, if you're going to fail that kid, you're failing yourself.
Exactly. What I was trying to get to. Yep.
And I think that's an indication. And look, there's teachers out there that are going to be like, hey, I have 5 kids that have never shown up to class.
Totally.
we're going to have those.
Yeah.
That's the craziest part about the teaching profession.
Whatnot, yeah.
Is that there is this, it is E plus R equals O. And, in R4, or not R4, the R Factor guys that are connected with Urban Meyer, with the Focus 3 podcast, they talk a lot about this. You have events that you can't control. You have responses to those events, and that shapes the outcome. It's an equation. So your response can be amazing and perfect. Pat Mahomes throwing the ball. And the event might be the kid doesn't show up. That's out of your control, and the outcome is the kid does fail. Well, the only thing you can do is then learn from that moment and ask yourself, first of all, did you do everything? That's an important question. A lot of times when my kids fail, I have to do some soul searching and look into the mirror and say, did I call that kid multiple times?
Yeah, one of the big things that it's going to go into, like I said, why I appreciate teachers, coaches I've had in the past, but it's what he speaks about creating stimulation in a room. And which I think is important because any coach, like I said, can have that energy or get on a guy and be cussing or whatever, just kind of creating that high level, everyone's on edge. But it can go one of two ways. It can go, everyone's excited to be there. Everyone's kind of fighting to answer the next question. Or one kid is completely freaking lost, or more than one kid is completely freaking lost. And they don't want to answer any questions. They don't want to raise their hand. They don't want to be involved. They're just scared to even be there. And think that's what you don't want. And I think one of the things that Urban made a good point about was he always wants, his coaches to have their room. Everyone, it should create stimulation. Everyone should be on edge, at the edge of their seat, pencil notes ready to go, and asking questions, answering things, but just creating madness and getting that room engaged. So that was a big thing.
Presenting the content that's what we're doing right now. We're presenting. We're not teaching. Now, you might be out there learning. There might be somebody that picks something up and learns. That's fantastic. And you can learn from presentations. 100%. That's what all podcasts fundamentally are.
Yep.
A teacher, though, would reach through podcast world and they would test and they would retest and they would continue to work. Teaching is a process. So as we're talking about education tonight, and as we're talking about it as it pertains to football specifically, keep that in mind that this is a process. This is a cycle. It's not just present the information. Any coach out there that just presents the information, here's the playbook, kid.
Yeah, anyone can do that.
You know what? Fantastic if that's the program you have and you just have the kids that are going to pick up on that.
Good for you, man.
Good for you.
That's awesome.
That's not the Jimmy's. Again, high school football coaches are coaching kids who 90% of them will play their last game on the last night of the season.
Yep.
And so I think we got to understand our clientele, which kind of takes us to the next thing. So I have one book that I ask all our coaches on staff to read. It's by this guy named Joe Ehrmann. It's called InsideOut Coaching. And his fundamental premise of the book, and if you get a chance, this is the most important coaching book. It continues to be, a decade after I read it, the most important coaching book that I've ever read. The premise is that sports can transform lives, but what you see on television is sports as a transaction. You work hard for me, and I'll get a better job, and you'll win the starting job and go to college and get a college scholarship. And while that's great, it's certainly not why we try to do things at West. It's just a truth thing. It doesn't work. Transaction dies out. Transformation is enduring.
Yeah, no, you say that transformation of, like I said, building not only skills and development, but obviously, teaching higher morals and life skills and and things that will carry over into the real world. And I know that Urban, like I said, off that Focus 3 podcast, kind of reverting back to what Urban said in past times, is he says he doesn't want to just teach his guys to survive in society. He wants them to thrive in society. And it just comes down to, like I said, implying or getting all those things, teaching them to kids, but then also teaching them the more of the why and why it will mean something later.
Relationships are always more important than content.
Absolutely.
100%. And I understand that it just is what it is. It's just like failing a kid. It's just like giving if your relationship, and I'm sitting here as a coach who's failed in a ton of relationships. Don't get me wrong. We work hard at it, but just like we play in a ton of football games and have a ton of reps, we're going to have a ton of mistakes too. We're human beings.
Yep.
I think when we make content king, like, hey, you better step this way on inside zone. Hey, you better run the route this way. Hey, that's not the right type of profile on the tackle. And you don't have the relationship capital built up
Totally.
to give that criticism to help that young man.
That can be perceived. Ooh, yeah.
They don't hear you.
Yeah. In one ear, out the other. Or it's just in one ear and it's a bunch of cuss words in their head back at you. Yep. Yeah, we've been there. I think everyone's kind of been there.
I think you and I have been there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, you got to have that relationship with the kid. You can't criticize him and get on him. I mean, you can, but if you want him to respond the way that you're hoping to, you got to have some sort of relationship. You know, they got to know that you care. You got to know, they got to know the why to what you're doing. But yeah, like I said, it's just, you got to be able to have a relationship with somebody and be able to laugh with them if you're going to be able to scream at them. So
yeah. We've talked about the relationship capital before. So check it. It's this whole idea that, especially in the sports world, where you only are with the kid for 2 hours, 3 hours,
Totally.
4 hours a day.
Yep.
Which is not like necessarily being a
limited
parent.
times a day, limited times a year.
In college, you have literally limited
even more
rules.
so.
Yeah, what you can do. Every one of those interactions, you are either putting money in the bank account or you are withdrawing. And every time you criticize, which is necessary, to do business, you have to withdraw.
Yep.
But if you're making withdrawals more than you're making investments, you're going to bankrupt that relationship and
infinite losses.
Infinite losses.
Infinite losses.
And all of a sudden, the performance on the field suffers. So if we're talking let's just be X and O's, let's just be transactional coaches. If you haven't built up relationships, you're just going to lose. You're going to lose with really good athletes, and that's going to be depressing.
And that's even worse. Yeah, that's about as bad as it gets.
Bummer. So I think what is really important is that we are always putting those relationships.
We're teaching
over
X's and
content.
O's, and we're teaching the Y's of life.
I love it. The why, which leads to another book that we've been talking about that you should get out and check. It's by Angela Duckworth. The book's called Grit. She talks a lot about why people are persistent. The why are some people Navy SEALs? Why do some people show up to Navy SEAL school and BUDS training?
Yeah.
And
are able
ring
to
the bell
yeah.
and that's the quit sign, even though they look like specimens, even though they're extreme athletes. And yet this dude that looks like he,
could be the most talented guy out there or whatever. Or it could be the most unathletic, looking guy out there who remains standing at the end.
What's the quality? What's that persistence?
What is that persistence?
What is that? Well, a big part of her book is that it has to matter to them.
Passion.
And so we got a bit here I want to read really quick, and then we'll kind of bounce off this. This is the beginning of how you build that persistence. Why does this have to do with education? Because if kids aren't persistent, they're not going to learn anything. They're never going to have the ability to learn. So here we go. First come interest is what she says. This is from Ms. Duckworth. Passion begins with intrinsically enjoying what you do. Every gritty person I've studied can point to aspects of their work they enjoy less than others, and most have to put up with at least one or two chores they don't enjoy at all. Nevertheless, they are captivated by the endeavor as a whole. With enduring fascination and childlike curiosity, they practically shout out, "I love what I do." What you got? What are you thinking there?
To carry that number, like that first thing you're talking about with interest, you got to be invested, and you got to be wanting to get better. You got to be wanting to be there and involved and engaged. And if you're not, like you said, you're not, and then in that sense, you're not interested. You don't want to be there. Your mind's not going to be there. Yeah. And then whether you're learning or whether you're teaching it. And obviously we're talking teaching, but certainly if you're the one that's going to be teaching something and you have no interest in it, and you're not putting yourself at least like in that 2-hour time frame where you need to be interested, then you're not going to be moving anything on. You're not going to be teaching those kids anything. You're not going to be passing on knowledge. You're just going to be wasting time.
I think the persistence thing is a two-way street. I think you brought it up from the teaching aspect, but obviously the learner. So here's something in football. We've all coached the kid, the 350-pound lineman who wants to be the tight end.
Yeah. I was one of those kids.
And you know what? Passionate about it.
Yeah.
Persistent about it even. What are your thoughts on going about having those honest conversations with kids and finding out, well, where are your passions really at?
That's a good point. Because that's like I said, I was one of those kids, and like I said, every year you have one of those kids. Everybody wants, you're gonna have one big boy who wants to touch the football or thinks he should be touching the football. And I think how a coach goes about breaking that down to a kid, depending on how interested and invested they are in that, depends a lot on the relationship. Because I've seen guys that have great relationships with that player. They can have those honest conversations with them and explain to them the why and have it make sense to them. And then I've seen coaches that just tell a kid no, hey, no, they didn't get a why or an explanation to why they have to stay on the offensive line, and that just creates doubt. It creates concern. Leads that guy usually to not being happy anymore, and not want to be involved and invested and interested. Going
into those conversations, you have to bring up their strengths. You have to speak to their strengths to build more relationship capital.
Yep.
And point them in a direction to see that this new goal still connects to their passions and interests. So what most kids they desire, most humans, I say kids, but really this is the adult coaches too. Oh, what do you mean I got to coach? What do you mean I got to coach the freshmen? That's.
Or a position coach who
on the
wants to be receivers, and now you're getting moved to running backs.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to. Not only do you got to learn about running backs.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of guys don't like it. You gotta learn something new.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to show them kids, and you want them to do well.
And that's personal experience for me. That's guys on our staff, we hire them, and they're in the spots that they're passionate about and they understand. And we do like guys to expand their horizons and move. But
totally,
again,
it's good for you, but you got to be interested.
Got to be interested
if you're gonna be successful at it.
So I think that's kind of a word of warning, and particularly, growing up, I grew up with a lot of guys that were super passionate. Maybe their parents were even more passionate than they were. And what ultimately happened is that their love for the game
burnt out
because
they didn't have as much interest as somebody else did. Yeah.
And I think reevaluating, I think having parents out there listening, having tough conversations about your kids, about what they're interested in.
Totally.
Have kids do everything. I am more than blessed. I have the financial resources and ability to have my kids go. We can go learn how to ski. We can go sledding. We can go. We can go play all these sports. Rowan played soccer last year. She's 4. She played soccer. And that was the coolest thing to see. These little kids running around. If you haven't seen 4-year-old soccer, it's bizarre. It has nothing to do with soccer, which is why it's awesome to me.
Recess.
Yeah.
In a more controlled area.
I don't even know if it's just great. It's like mob studies, like the studies of the mob. You should go to a 4-year-old soccer match and see it. It's just like little pods of people running around. One kid's got to go into the woods, and anyway.
Parents
I digress.
are a whole different other part of it, too.
Find what your kids are interested in, and teenagers, players,
and it's going to change
athletes,
too. And I think to be open to that too.
Change.
Yeah, it's going to change. They might be super interested one week and not interested the next. And it's kind of giving that, trying to figure out what makes them interested. Maybe what is that ticker that makes them want to dive in and then get back out. Kind of that little bit. So. And
they say that interest really forms by like middle school years at 12, 13, 14.
Okay,
so
good point.
A lot of times we're getting kids 14, 15 who that interest might have changed.
Totally.
And they've been playing football their whole life. They've been told they're football players. It switches. So as coaches, that's something to be very aware of.
Like you said, a kid plays tight end his whole life, and then he gets to high school and realizes he has to play O-line.
Yeah.
No longer interested.
And that to him, his interest was in the position, maybe more than the game itself. I like honest conversations with our kids, and I want to know that the guys in the field, their interest.
Yeah.
They have a passion for it. And so in the book, Grit, she actually identifies a few other areas. And the last thing I want to touch on with the book, because it's super important, but she says one of the other reasons that people are persistent is because they have a higher purpose of some sort, a greater purpose. So this is what she says about purpose. What ripens passion is the conviction that your work matters. For most people, interest without purpose is nearly impossible to sustain for a lifetime. It is therefore imperative that you identify your work as both personally interesting and at the same time integrally connected to the well-being of others. For a few, a sense of purpose dawns early, but for many, the motivations to serve others heightens after the development of interest and years of disciplined practice. Regardless, fully mature exemplars of grit invariably tell me my work is important both to me and to others. Kids don't see the purpose sometimes of what they're doing until they're 25.
Exactly. That's what I was kind of alluding to last week when I was talking, is exactly as I'm getting older and like you said, that mid-20s, things are hitting me almost like daily, where I'm just like, especially being back like in the high school setting and being around younger kids, I'll see them do something, I'll be like, hey, like that, hold on to that. I don't know where you got to store that little piece of information, man, but hold on to that, because it might not like be clear right now, but you got a pretty good understanding of it, and it's gonna smack you in the face here in like 10 years. So hold on to that. Yeah, that's exactly what you're pointing to.
It's how frustrated do I get? I'll be real now. I get real frustrated because the purpose of West High football is to help young men and women that are involved in the program to become great people in their community, to become the greatest versions of themselves. If I'm a 16-year-old kid, I want to go hit something.
Yeah.
I want to go throw a ball. I'm not thinking about changing the world. Now, when I'm 26, I might start looking back at those lessons and going, oh, I get it. I see that. When you're 36 and you're a dad, you've been a dad for a minute and married, that really makes it. I feel like a lot of the coaching I had when I was a kid hit me in the last 5 years.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think, obviously, I think we're pretty blessed here to be in Anchorage with all the diversity in the sense of people. So you get all the different kind of viewpoints and just feelings towards all sorts of things involving football, if we're just going to stay in that realm. But also in the type of coaches that you get. Like I said, in the age or culturally or what guys are into. So it makes me imagine, where you're getting your information from, but and how invested all those different coaches are. And obviously it's different at, high school level. You might have guys who are in the building, who are there to be there all day. I mean, that's their purpose, man. They're there for more. Then you got kids who are your coaches that work a 9 to 5, and they try to show up, or they say they're going to be there, and then sometimes don't come. And Pop Warner, I remember having a high school or a head coach who would show up sometimes he wouldn't. It was kind of just like it's give or take. What was his purpose of being there? We didn't know.
Man, that's really, and so the last thing I'll kind of wrap up on this one, and this one's almost a side note. It's using engaging tools to help guide kids, because we talked about the fact that the purpose, while it is the one of the most important things in persistence, in developing these lessons that football and actually translating them to life.
Yeah.
We just talked about these kids want to be on TikTok.
They want to be on camera. They want to be on camera.
That's a great way of wording it. They want to be on camera.
Some kids doing drills. I mean, I watch guys doing drills and stuff. They try to be so perfect. And you bust out a camera and watch how they all change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, this could be the next on someone's story, or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to look good. It's like, man, just go play football. Dang. Don't worry about how many likes you're going to get on your freaking picture you throwing. It ain't gonna be your only throw of the day. Well, hopefully you're gonna have a million like it.
So I want to kind of hack that. I don't know if hack's the right word, but I want to use that. Use engaging tools.
Yeah.
All three of these sources talking about Urban. Urban talks about using checkers to teach an offense. In one of his books, he talks. I think it's Chris Leak was having trouble learning the offense at Florida, so he had the offensive coordinator sit down. Might have been Dan Mullins at the time.
I think it was. He was quarterback coach at the time.
And he's like, hey,
he was their quarterback.
Use checkers and teach him how to play by putting his. It was tactile. It was you had movement behind it.
Yeah, it had tons of stuff.
Oh my gosh! So using those engaging tools. One of the cool things about engaging tools, whether it's my big thing is I love Madden, and so what I love
tool.
It's a great tool, and here's kind of like how I use it, because a lot of people say like, well, how to use it, and then you just break out and you play a game.
Yeah.
You go into practice mode, and specifically for quarterbacks, you find a concept and you can pretty much find every concept in Madden, and then you go into practice mode and you tell the defense to do a random play, and then you run that play 40 times in 10 minutes or less.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes, you can get a ton of reps. The kid starts making cognitive decisions over and over, and he gets instant feedback. That was a good decision. That was a bad decision, because Madden kind of cheats. Like if you make the right decision,
you know it right away.
You know it right away. Sometimes a player is going to do something crazy, but in the practice mode, it's pretty,
really drive you nuts.
It
does those
makes
crazy
you
stuff.
so mad.
Beside
It
the
happens
point.
more in the games though, but in practice mode,
Yes. Yeah.
it plays out. So if you're a coach out there trying to figure out how to use Madden as an engaging tool,
Or a young kid, like get on Madden and go learn too.
Yeah.
Like I said, we use Madden to show our quarterbacks and stuff, and like I said, so kids, go use it. Coaches, go use it.
and do that practice mode. Pick your concept. Do a concept a night. Do a concept a night for a week. Take your playbook, whatever concept it is. There's a lot of
useful tools.
The drop back concepts, the quick pass concepts.
This guy showed me a lot of cool stuff you can do with Madden.
Hit that
more
up.
Than I
think
knew.
it's
So the other thing I just want to add about media is, I mean, I know I joke about how kids always want to be on camera and stuff, but there's a lot of good things that like Instagram and Twitter and other pages can put out there for kids to follow and make it really, really easy for them.
Yeah.
Whether a lot of it be position group wise or whatever, coaches, get online, do a little research yourself, go follow a page and see if you like what they're putting out. See if that guy is, teaching what you like, or, he or she or however it may be. But use a lot of tools on social media, and obviously, your kids are going to be on it anyway, and have them utilize that time rather than wasting it.
It's where they're at. You've got to teach them where they're at. Period. If they're not in the classroom, you got to teach them somewhere, somehow, Zoom, but
or hey, go make your own Instagram account. There you go.
That's huge, man. Make a teaching Instagram, make a team Instagram, whatever. Yeah. Social media is huge. Really good. And the last thing I wanted to put kind of the bow to all this is that we've talked about it meaning something. And there's a really great TED Talk out there. It's on the importance of meaning in the learning process. And the presenter uses this Florida State study from Chase and Simon that uses 2 chessboards. One chessboard's random, one chessboard's in the middle of a game, and they ask people to memorize the board in 5 seconds. Well, people that knew nothing about chess didn't do a very good job on either board. They were okay.
What everything was.
Yeah. The experts saw the 2 boards, and when they saw the one that was in the middle of a game, they can almost perfectly put it back to where it was.
Pieces, yep.
But then they saw a random board.
Pieces all over hell.
And they scored about the same as the normal person that was not a chess expert. So
interesting.
So whatever you teach, you have to show the meaning behind what you're teaching. And so in football, let's go to drills. If you're not showing how this drill in game relates,
yep,
that's a problem. The kids will check out because there's not learning going on. There's just repetition, which is not what I'll call productive learning.
No, like I said, because the kid's going to be like you said, they're just going to be repeating an action, not investing in trying to understand why they are learning that action and why it's important to their game and why it will be beneficial later on. And I think it's great for, like I said, teaching that full picture, understanding like the entire play. And one thing I always appreciated in high school and in college was meetings that we met together. For like the receivers, the O-line, the running back, everyone was on the same page. They were all able to understand the purpose of the play. Like sometimes you call a pass play or whatever, and receivers are running their routes, but they don't know the quarterback's reads. They don't know if they're the first, second, or third. They just think they're open when they're open. And obviously, hopefully you got your stuff installed a little bit better than that. And so you want everybody on the field to have the purpose so they understand why. Yep. Why does that receiver gotta haul ass and try to get to the safety and block that safety? Why is that the most important part of the play? When I'm, it's a running play, coach, I'm an outside wide receiver. Well, here's why. And then the lineman need to understand that, the running back needs to understand that, and surely the quarterback needs to understand that.
Let's go to education. Sometimes I got to teach a class, and I'm like, I'd rather be teaching this other class.
Oh, yeah.
If I don't understand the why behind it, if I don't have the meaning, it just is disorganized chaos, and I get relationship is burnt a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
That capital, that leadership capital, I mean, I'm feeling it. That's just me, right? If you're in a leadership position, and we all are, when you're trying to teach somebody to do something, I think the why and show you got to explain the chessboard.
You be prepared to explain the why.
Yeah, if you don't explain that chessboard and why those pieces are where they're at and like how that relates to the whole game and the whole system, people see random chaos, they get turned off by it, they don't learn, they don't listen, they have no interest, they don't have any passion, and they certainly don't have a higher purpose that they're looking for in that adventure, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Bet. All right. Well, that's education. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it and a lot more experienced. Like, I have my master's in ed, and I've been coaching for 21 years. That's crazy to say. And I've been teaching at West for since 2008, so 13 years now. Yeah, that's crazy. So I've been doing this a while, but there are people that put a lot of time. I'm not the scientist behind the scenes doing this. I'm trying to learn as fast as I can every single day how today is different than yesterday. So there's a ton of good resources out there. We mentioned a bunch, but you got to check out InsideOut coaching. You got to check out Grit. Check out the podcast. The TED Talk about meaning and learning. And then for football heads out there, because it's a little bit probably more football specific, the Urban Meyer speech in the 2012 Ohio State Coaches Association. I think if you are looking for some way to get better on your how you can be a teacher as a coach or whatever you're doing, check out those 5 resources. Links in the show notes. So it is that time again. It's time for 4 Down Territory. And I'm going to start because I won the coin toss. A good, best, your favorite clinic talk that you've ever heard. A good, the best, or just one you really liked. A clinic talk that you
clinic talk. The one I think I enjoyed the most was actually last year at the coaching convention in Nashville. AFCA when Matt Rule got up and spoke, and he had just got the job as the Panthers' new head coach. But he was there. This is like a couple of days or something. I mean, he had Panthers gear on, but all of his slides were all in Baylor stuff. So I mean, he was talking about every how important it is to teach kids was one of his big notes on it. And I wish I would have had my notebook here because I was just writing down notes. But he had tons and tons of energy. I was able to take a lot out of that clinic talk from him. He ended up talking for like 30 minutes or something. So for 30 minutes of Matt Rule, man, it was cool. And it was really cool to get a chance to see him in person, hear him talk, understand why, how he is, the way he is. He's been successful in different places, been able to bounce around. It was very evident to see why, just in getting that 30 minutes to watch him talk. And it was fun to watch him this year, and excited to see what the Panthers can do in the future.
Awesome. You show up to a practice or a class. What are the things that you see that lets you know that teacher, that coach is interested and passionate in what they do?
Moving around. I think moving around and like being engaged, like not just like walking around with like a coffee cup and like checking in, but like sometimes being loud, being interactive. Getting obviously back in the day when you could like get within 6 feet of a kid, and be able to kind of throw things or whatever, get the room involved. It's just creating an environment that it's impossible for a kid to sit there and go to sleep.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. Like, unless you're taking a good 20-minute reading break where you need some quiet, like, okay. But a lot of times you go around and there's just half the room's asleep or it looks like they're not there. And it's like, hey, man, you can control that as a teacher. I think for me, when I walk by a room and I see or I hear it, I think if I hear it before I see it, that's usually a good sign. If I can hear some fun things going on in there, and some kids are getting educated.
That's killer. I like that one. That's good. This sets you up for a short third down situation.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good. Third down. Worst / most embarrassing moment in school, any grade level.
A good friend of mine, it was 7th grade. He was doing something or I think I was chewing Cheez-Its. I was eating some Cheez-Its at lunch, and I sneezed. And so I had a bunch of Cheez-Its all over my buddy's face. My buddy's name is Ted Kelly. And so that already makes the story 10 times more interesting.
If you know Ted.
Yeah, so if you know Ted. And so, yeah, I sneezed on Ted's face, and it was by accident. It was not on purpose. He then could not let it go and was just trying to, like, chew up the most random foods he could find and spit them on me. And I'd be interested to see if Ted remembers the story because he knows where I'm going. So he's trying to spit on me. We're kind of messing around. And as he goes to spit on me, I smack his face. And now OT, the security guard at the time, she comes walking over and starts getting I start getting in trouble because she just watched me smack this kid. And I'm sitting there trying to plead my case. And then while she's yelling at me, Ted's behind her, pointing at me, going like, ha, 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 you deserve this. And everyone at this point was kind of watching me get in trouble because it's in the cafeteria. All our friends were sitting together. So I remember just being like, just getting drilled for smacking this kid. And I think I got like OSS. My mom was furious because I told her what happened and the way Ted was acting behind her back. And she knew it was true. And Ted, you know it's true too. I think my mom even called her mom and convinced Ted's mom to not like to talk my way out of the suspension. But I was pretty embarrassed standing there just getting bitched at for something. And it's funny to look back on now.
No, that's great. Patricia tells the story with such anger, and Patty's never mad. Patty's like, but Patty when Patty's mad.
When Patricia gets mad, she's mad.
Watch out. Yeah, that's good. 4th down. Who's the best teacher you ever had?
Best teacher I ever had.
And why?
And like I said, I think it comes back to that second down question. And man, I got a handful of teachers, but it's funny because they all, in my mind, like the first ones, like I got a lot of good teachers I've had. So I don't want to not give any love to someone. But middle school, for me, I think of like 2 teachers, Mrs. Way Thomas and Mr. Warren. Mrs. Way Thomas was a math teacher. I'm sure some of you guys listen to went to Central, either had her or know of her. Short, little like cross country runner.
Yeah,
girl.
She was like a Olympian or something.
Maybe, amazing.
She's a rock star.
And I was never interested in math, never good at it. Man, she made math like the coolest class. And she there was times where she was like rapping on stage and doing all sorts of stuff. Like she has like no limits in the amount of like fun and craziness and kind of things she can throw at you. So in the sense of math, which can be a very not fun thing to learn, she made it a lot of fun. And Mr. Warren did that same thing. When I think of people moving around the room and making noise, man, he was... Anytime an ambulance went by the room, he was jumping and hiding and just doing things to make a bunch of kids giggle, and but always keeping you invested. If kids started going to sleep or dozing off, I mean, he was flickering lights, just keeping the room active, keeping everybody engaged. So definitely shout out to all the great teachers, but those 2 in particular.
I think you scored on that drive.
I think so, man. That one felt good.
That was good. What you got?
First question, and I'm kind of moving back to last week or the weekend, but
yeah,
favorite Super Bowl commercial.
From this last week.
From this past weekend, yeah. From this past weekend.
It wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I loved Will Ferrell's anger as he punched the globe and then continued to wear the globe of Norway. And then, like, one of the Norway universities, like, actually made, like, a rebuttal.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, you have to check it out. I actually haven't clicked on the link, so I should know what I'm talking about. It might be really bad. I don't know. But it just says Norway responds to Will Ferrell. No, dude. When he punched the globe, I laughed. That was probably my biggest laugh out loud to a commercial moment. And it's Will Ferrell. He's probably my favorite.
He's one of those laugh out loud type
but
guys.
He's just like, Norway, you hear me? I was just thinking about it. Just that little moment just tickled me. It was great, man.
I remember being a little off. Like I was kind of confused by it, but it was just still entertaining because Will Ferrell was just being
cat's back.
Funny.
Cat's back.
Cat's back.
Cat's on the table. No, I think what's crazy about it was that it was for like GM's electric car.
I couldn't even tell you. I don't know.
It's like it kind of, and that's fun part about commercials during the Super Bowl. They don't matter. Like, they don't actually sell anything.
Yeah, and sometimes commercials are really good, and it just makes me think like, why aren't they like this more often? Like, you can, I don't know, but some of them are so bad, and I'm just like, man, you spent a lot of money on some terrible stuff there. Will we have a rematch in next year's Super Bowl?
Ooh, man,
because Tom, he said it on the podium, he's coming back. We're running it back.
No, I think that these are.
How much did the Chiefs learn?
Yeah, they don't lose a lot. Let me put it this way: they don't lose a lot. I'm interested to see if teams like the Bills. I mean, I think they talked about it in the post-game presser, but the Bills are like, we're going to design our team to beat the Chiefs. We are out to beat the Chiefs. Like they've talked about. So the Bills are going to be a very interesting story. I have a buddy out there who listens to the show.
Yes.
He said, Jeff, I played football with him.
Go Bills.
He's like, a lot of Josh Allen hate on this show. And I was like, yeah. Because we said he couldn't play corner. That's all.
Yeah, he can do everything else.
And he's a liability at cornerback. Anyway.
He played quarterback.
No, my sister's a Bills fan as well.
Okay, there you go.
Should probably bring up my
Buffalo and New York. Man, you guys are East Coasters.
Yeah, it's when you grow up in Alaska, like
you get free game, man. Fair game anywhere.
You just what's on TV and what uniform color combination do you like when you're a kid?
I've seen it all up here. I've seen it all.
Jets Red Sox fan. Figure that one out. Still, Anyway, I'm going to say no. I think that the chances are really low. But if I had to pick today what the best odds are, it's those two squads.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a lot to see
I
what's
want
going on in the
to see
offseason.
what happens with Green Bay. Green Bay is a real interesting story.
And how many of Tampa Bay's players can they bring back next year? I know they got a couple big pieces at receiver, linebacker, D-line. So see if they can get those guys back. Third down.
Go.
So, and this is kind of funny you asked this question because I had it for you. But what is your most embarrassing moment as an educator?
Ooh, as an educator, one time a kid gave me a cookie, and I could not, and I hadn't eaten, so I was a little dizzy, and I just wasn't feeling good, and I was wondered if it was a pot.
What kind of cookie?
I wondered if it was a pot cookie.
Oh man!
So I'm standing up in front of this class and I'm teaching, and I'm like, "Am I feeling high right now?" I kept doing these checks, and it was so awful. And I was like, and I just looked at the kid, and the kid's a weird kid anyway. And he's just looking at me. And he's in the front row.
Did you give me a special
cookie?
cookie?
And he's just staring at me, and he's kind of giggling. I don't think it was. I think an hour went by, and I was fine. But I sat there for a minute after that class was over, and I was like, "Am I okay? What just happened?" Because for whatever reason, it was a bad nutrition day. Maybe that cookie spiked my sugar.
Yeah.
The kid was he would have done it.
Yeah, he would be one to do it. Yeah.
And I was like, and from that moment on, to this day, I will not eat a cookie from a student, especially in the middle of a class, in front of the class. I'm just like, no, thank you very much. I'm gonna hold on to this for I'm not gonna eat this thing right now because that screwed me up. Like I said. That was second year teaching. Seriously though, I was worried.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And I was like, now I'm because was that worry? Was that paranoia? And I was like, oh man, and that messed you up. I'm a second year teacher, and they're gonna think I'm high in class. And I'm like, it wasn't me. It was this kid. Give me a.
Well, right on. Third down. All right, moving on to fourth down. Last question I have for you: if you could have a former football coach, a former educator, and just a former adult in your life, sit them at a table and just try to steal as much knowledge from them, who are those three and why? From
football wise, I would have Bill Walsh. Growing up as a kid, again, an Alaskan thing, I was a 49er fan as a little kid. And like I said, I didn't become a Jets fan until early 90s. So just in time for...
It's too bad.
Just in time. Anyway. But Bill Walsh. And I think the thing about Bill Walsh is he was so... he was very ahead of his game. He makes a comment in one of his books. It says, the next level of football, and specifically the West Coast offense, is to train players up to say a one-word play, and they just do their thing. So you would say smash, because he recognized the length of West Coast offenses were certain, and maybe not every concept, but he made this comment years before. You had Cam Newton on the John Gruden.
Yes, on the John Gruden show.
John Gruden show is we call that whatever it was.
Go.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. John's like,
goes, are you telling me that? Anyway, sorry, that's a bad John Gruden. But no, I think Bill Walsh would be the football one because he was so ahead of his time, and I would like to know more. I would just love to say, hey, okay, I'm not dealing with Joe Montana. I'm dealing with Joe, whoever, who lives in Spenard.
Spaghetti.
Yeah.
I made that up. I have no idea.
Teach me how to coach this guy. How would you coach this guy? Because his offense is brilliant, but I think it requires a level of brilliance to execute, especially at the quarterback position, obviously. Yeah. And there's a lot of other things there, but him. If I could do another former educator, gosh, I just friended him. I should look him up. But I had this English teacher. His name is Glen Wright. He's taught over at South. He taught me at Service. At the time, there was a point where, and he's got to be retired now. I even subbed for him. I got a sub for him.
Wow.
He actually used a video project I made in class, and he had me play it for the class on the day I subbed, which was way too meta.
That was in your notes? That's pretty funny.
That was way too meta.
That's funny.
But no, I would love to sit down and just talk shop with him about a career. He had taught at the time when he taught me at Service. He was in his 20th years of teaching, and by when I subbed for him, he was in the 30s of years at South. And I love to chalk it up with Glen Wright. Just his thoughts on. He's an English teacher, and just he was a lot of fun. I really like Mr. Wright. And then This guy, he just passed away recently, but Lou Sears, Dr. Lou Sears, he was a principal here in town at a bunch of schools.
Gotcha. Yep.
And Lou was my teacher at Wayland Baptist for the education program. And this guy just had stories, and they were relatable. And he was just one of the funnest teachers I ever had. He was my teacher, you know, and he was the guy that made his name in the district as a principal. But he was my teacher. And he taught me more about just that everyday, what it's going to be like when you enter that class for the first time. And some of his talks were awesome. So if I could get 3 of those around a table and chalk up COVID, talk about how to do things we're in now.
Yeah.
I would, you know, Glenn, to my knowledge, he friended me on Facebook the other day, so I think he's still alive.
I hope so.
I hope so now.
Same.
But
Same
Bill
Glen
Walsh
Wright.
and Lou Sears, to be able to have all 3 of those at a table, very, very different human beings.
Yeah.
About as different of human beings as you could put at a table. But there's going to be some Alaskan people who know Glenn and Lou and so,
Bill.
Well, I don't know if they knew Bill.
I
but
know of him.
They know of him. So that you'll know how eccentric that would be to have those guys at the table. That would be pretty dang fun. Which brings us to the audience question.
Yeah.
The audience question, and that is, who was your favorite educator? Why? And then what we really want to do, what I love to do, is get them on the show.
Ooh, good point.
We could Zoom them. We could Zoom them right in.
Bring him right in.
So who would be a great educator to spotlight for an interview, like one of these Monday interviews we're going to start putting out?
Yep.
Who would be a great educator you would like to see? Send us some nominate some people.
Yeah.
We'll do the legwork. We'll reach out to them, but we just want to know who. And it is not very clear. Does not have to be anything to do with football.
Yeah,
just
absolutely not.
Somebody that, if you've been listening to the show, you know the idea, you know the vibe. But we want to get them on the show. Just to
More
just
the
talk
merrier,
shop.
man. We just want, more people, more engagement. I mean, like I said, we're here to just kind of spread the word and help people help people.
So it's time to turn out the lights. Final thoughts. What you got for the show?
Tom Brady is the GOAT in the sense of most accomplished, because what he has done throughout his career and what he's accomplished is amazing.
Yeah.
What Patrick Mahomes did on that falling on his face throw was amazing.
Yeah.
So talent, accomplishments, and then when it comes to teaching, be patient, be prepared, have energy. Even on those days where you don't have energy, have fun.
Yeah.
Put the kids first.
I just circled the word relationships. I think relationships, building those, it helps the activity of whatever they're doing matter to them, whether you're teaching world history or whether you're teaching Spider 2, Why Banana. I mean, really, it's relationships help those things matter. Relationships can help with those engaging tools. Relationships are the things you remember. You're talking about Mr. Warren. You're talking about him running around the ambulance or whatever.
Yeah,
That's a great story.
Great madness, yeah.
And I think that we remember those things, and those things stick with us, and that's how we attach the importance of what those teachers taught us and apply that into life. Guys, you're awesome. We're gonna have we'll be continuing to have shows on Friday, as well as we'll start dropping some interviews on Monday that we do with people, just to have a little bit more content out there and get more voices on the show, and give you guys just some more something to look forward to on your commutes to work.
Yeah, or in the office, or
Working out, bathtub,
maybe.
Yeah, if you have AirPods,
Yeah,
don't let them fall on your head.
it's a safety thing.
Hey, we're the Backups. I'm Timbo B. Davis.
And I'm Connor B. Feckley.
We coach football. That's convenient. It's the stupidest catchphrase.
I kind of like it though. It's kind of fun.
That's convenient.